Hello everyone, welcome here to Lisa's Stamp Studio. My name is Lisa Curcio. Today is Monday, it is September 19th. I had to look at the calendar. The year is 2022. We are streaming live right here on YouTube. I am so glad that you are here, whether this is your first time here at my channel or perhaps you are returning. And tonight I have a beautiful Christmas card for you. Well, not just one, but I have a couple. I also have some other samples to share with you, but they're all using one card layout. Now, if you're like me and you are into making your holiday cards, or perhaps you make a lot of birthday cards, a card layout can be an immense help because it's like a map on where you put the pieces for your card, which makes the designing process easy and fun. Now, a couple things about tonight's live stream before we get started. First and foremost, I want to make sure that you check out the video comments below when tonight's live stream is over. We're going to have linked for you there a project sheet that's very extensive. It's going to include pictures, cutting dimensions, and the supplies for the cards I'm going to share with you tonight. I do have one bonus project tonight that I'm going to share with you during the live that's not there, but it's just another idea for you. In addition to that, we love to chat with you here during the live stream, and even if you leave a comment for the replay. But in order to comment or chat, you're going to need to log into your YouTube account, which requires a Gmail address. That's on YouTube, not on us, but we hope that you'll do that. I come back and I read every single comment. Now, tonight is a big night because if you were here with me a few days ago on Wednesday of last week, you know that we are giving a giveaway. I have two of these beautiful mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machines to give away. And I have pulled two random winners through randomlistpicker.org. We're going to announce those names a little bit later here in the live stream. And it would be so exciting if you were here with us live while you won. It doesn't matter if you are, but I want to remind you that you'll need to claim to redeem your prize no later than Sunday of this week. Again, I'm looking at my calendar. It is September 25th. I don't even know where September's gone so far. But a couple things before we get started. First and foremost, I don't want you to miss this. There's only 4 days left to register for the online stamping retreat. We want you to be with us because guess what? Today we just finished the massive final tutorial for this live streaming event. In addition to 6 live demonstrations by myself, Gina Curcio-Hawley, who you've seen here on my YouTube channel, she's my daughter, Kylie Bertucci and her husband Bruno. She is the #1 demonstrator in Australia. We have partnered together to do 6 live streams every hour on Saturday of this week, which is September 24th. The finished PDF tutorial, which you will get at the end of the event on Saturday. Are you ready? Hold on. It's 273 pages long. Now you're probably thinking, no way, it is. So it's 6 live streams, all recorded for you. You're going to have lifetime access to those live stream recordings and all of the tutorial information. Now, when you register, guess what? It's only $45 for the whole day. That includes immediate access. There's a pre-event information tutorial so that you can cut cardstock if you want to stamp along with us. That 273-page tutorial bundle that we're going to give you when the event is ongoing is going to be an amazing resource. There are templates, pictures on putting the cards together, and a massive amount of ideas. 33 altogether because I snuck in a bonus project there for you. We would love to interact with you, and just so that you are aware, we are doing Prize Patrol giveaways, and it doesn't matter where you live, we'll have something for everyone. So here in the US, it is this Saturday, that is September 24th, and if you are overseas, that is going to be on September 25th. This is a worldwide event. Head over to the link that you see right here on the screen at onlinestampingretreat.com. Click on Retreats at the top and then Fall. All the information is there for you. Just scroll right through it. I would love to have you be with us on Saturday. All right, we're ready to get started. Let me just move those fancy buttons out of the way. And I am actually going to start with a layer for my piece of cardstock. Now, I'm doing something different tonight. We're going to work on a card layout because if you're like me and you make a lot of Christmas cards, or maybe you make a lot of birthday cards, sometimes figuring out where to start is the biggest problem. So I've got a card layout for you, and I'm going to use some designer series paper scraps, which you're going to love the word scraps because that means you can use up all those pieces that you don't know what to do with. Now I am using this gorgeous designer series paper. This is called Lights Aglow, and you've seen me use this here before during a live stream, but I have to showcase it again because those gold foil accents on this side just stop my heart. I love foil for the holidays. Now, the best part about Stampin' Up! Designer Series papers is they are double-sided, which means you're going to have lots of use for these well after the holidays because I can use this, and I probably can use this and this definitely after the holidays for birthday cards or other occasions. You're going to want to grab this now because it is finally back in stock. It's 48 6x6 sheets. You're going to have 12 different patterns, 4 sheets for each of those patterns. The papers are stunning. So like I mentioned to you, I decided to use scraps. So I'm going to bring in my silicone craft sheet. And this is going to be one of the reasons I decided to use scraps because I've got a sliver here. And I decided, let's do something fun with this. So I'm going to flip this over. Please keep in mind, if you are a fan of liquid glue, by all means you can. I use too much. So I'm an adhesive girl. This is my Stampin' Seal Plus, and it's going to allow me to bring out just a little tiny section of tabs. It is very, very strong, and because of the strength, I don't need to put it everywhere. Now I'm going to move this on top of my silicone craft sheet because if I have adhesive that falls outside of my cardstock, it won't stick to my table. You know how you're always fighting that sticky spot? All right, well, the silicone craft sheet, adhesive, liquid glue, and hot glue will not stick to it, which is wonderful. Let's work down here in the corner. Now I'm going to work on an angle. Keep in mind if you want to work higher or lower or tilted or more, that's completely up to you. There is no right or wrong way. So I'm going to start by going here. But one piece wasn't enough for me. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add another piece as well. And we're going to do the exact same thing. Now keep in mind, as I mentioned, a card layout, also known as a card sketch, gives you an idea or the mapping for your card. And that's going to help give you some idea on where to start. Now I've got other variations for you you're not going to want to miss, but this one for tonight, I am going to leave just a little bit of space between these. I'm doing my best to try to make them as even as possible. And I'm looking to try to get it just right. And I'm going to tack this down. Do you see how some of my card base is showing here? Okay, I've got one more. Please keep in mind, you could do 1, you could do 2, you can do 3, you can do more. I find that when I work in odd numbers, it's more appealing to the eye. So I like to use 3. Keep in mind 5 would be great as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put those tabs on here. I'm going to move this over. See the amount of space here, the white? I'm looking to mimic that. Now, when you see my other samples, you're going to get some other really great ideas for this. Now, I cut these longer than I need on purpose. Keep in mind when you're going to adhere your strips on an angle, you're going to need more than the natural width of your cardstock. So what I like to do is use those scraps to my advantage. I'm making sure this is good and stuck. I'm going to flip this over. Now what's going to happen is it's going to allow me to use this cardstock as a guide to cut away what I don't need. These are my sticky scissors. Absolutely love them. That red ribbon means don't use them on the good stuff because they're good and sticky. So I'm going to come right along here and I am going to cut away what I don't need. It's going to fall right on top of my work surface or on top of my silicone craft sheet. These scissors really take a beating here in the studio and they get quite sticky. As a matter of fact, they're really due for a cleaning. I don't ever recommend rubbing alcohol on your scissors, and here is why. There is a rivet or a screw in your scissors, and that has a tendency to dry out when you're using rubbing alcohol. Even though the alcohol evaporates, I recommend a citrus-based solution called Goo Gone. It is amazing, and you're going to love that not only does it clean your scissors beautifully, but it almost kind of oils or greases that so that there's no rust here and there's no grinding of your scissors. If you take good care of them, they're going to last you a good long time. So we're just going to kind of clean this up so that it makes your view just a little bit prettier. And we've got this piece right now, but I'm going to set this off to the side because this in itself is really pretty, but we got to work on a focal point. And you might look at this and think, well, where the heck are you going to put things? And that is a great question. And that's some of the things I want to teach you about tonight. Now my focal point tonight, we're going to do some heat embossing. So I've got a piece of white cardstock here. It's just a scrap. And I'm going to prepare my work surface with the embossing buddy. Now this is an anti-static powder bag that actually tells the powder not to stick where there isn't ink. Now the ink that I'm using is the Versamark ink pad. And this is used primarily for heat embossing, but it's also a watermark pad, which means if you are to use it on dark cardstock, it's going to leave a tone-on-tone finish. And I love that it plays double duty. Now this ink tends to be a little bit sticky, which is great for the embossing powder, but I want to make sure I have my embossing powder nearby and ready to go. So here I have part of the embossing toolkit, which is this tray. Love that. It also comes with these little reversible tweezers, and it comes with the embossing buddy, and it also comes with a brush, because if you get embossing powder in the tray, this unscrews and you can brush that powder right back into your container. Now I have a confession to make. I'm really messy when it comes to embossing powder. So I use these snap close containers. I label one for each of the colors that I have. Of course, I do quite a bit of embossing. This works out famously for me because I have a large area that I can powder over, which is going to help contain the mess. I love that the lid snaps on and off, which means if I accidentally spill it, I'm not going to have to bring out the vacuum cleaner and clean up the mess. I love a plastic spoon to dispense the powder. So now that this is all ready, I'm going to push that off to the side. I'm going to bring in that Versamark ink pad, and I'm also going to bring in this beautiful image. Now this image comes from the stamp set called Peace to You. Very nostalgic, going to be great for holidays for years to come. It's got some greetings in it. We're going to make a gorgeous card with this. So I'm going to put that off to the side for just a moment. But I want you to see that the stamp is relatively the same size as the ink pad. So I don't like to go like this because I'm notorious for missing a spot. So I'm going to leave that image face up on my work surface, and I'm going to use the ink pad this way. I'm going to tap to get the Versamark ink on top of the image. I am doing my best, because none of us is perfect, to avoid these outside edges of the red rubber. Because if ink gets there, that means powder is going to get there. And in this case, it's not going to matter too much. But I also know, oops, I got some pretty arthritic hands. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the Pierce mat down underneath it. Now this ink doesn't dry pretty quickly, but because I'm chatting, let's go ahead and give it one more quick little love tap over the top. And I'm going to stamp sideways because it's easier for my hand. Because I have basal joint arthritis down here at the bottom, it's painful for me to push too hard. And it's a big solid image. Now I don't know if you can see this or off camera, but I'm going to cap that because I don't want my ceiling fan to disperse that embossing powder all over the studio. So I'm going to make sure that that's closed, pressing out that image. That Pierce mat is actually working to my advantage. It's helping me push from the bottom up with these old hands. Here comes that spoon, and it's going to work right over this image, and it's going to allow me to keep my fingers clean. Now, here's the other great thing about the spoon. I can give that cardstock a little bit of a tap, and it's going to release any powder that wants to statically stick to it. Now let's go ahead and lay that to the side for just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and put that here, and I am going to recap this before I heat emboss. How many of you have heat embossed before and you have found that you didn't cap it and then there's powder everywhere? This container has been a favorite of many YouTube viewers, so I have it linked for you in my craft room favorites. Head over to my website at lisastampstudio.com, click on shop, and then down to craft room favorites. Here's where those tweezers come into play. That's going to ensure that my fingers are going to stay not burned. So I'm going to turn this here, and let's get that heat tool going. I love the Stampin' Up! Heat tool. It has 2 speeds. Speed 1 is fantastic if you're drying cardstock, perhaps for a technique or for watercoloring. Technique 2 is going to seal the embossing powder and turn this powdery finish into a beautiful foil finish. The encased tip is going to ensure that the heat tool is going to stay hot for a period of time, which means if you're like me and you're doing numerous Christmas cards, you can go ahead and heat emboss one after another, and it's going to retain the heat, and it's going to go quicker and quicker. Fantastic. The retractable stand is fantastic if you're traveling to stamp and heat emboss with friends. And of course, it's got a nice long cord. Never ever cover up the vents with your hand because just like a blow dryer, it's going to need some circulation so it doesn't overheat. This is very, very hot, which is why it's encased. Don't put your fingers in there. All right, we're going to turn that on. And as the heat tool gets warm, what's going to happen is it's going to conduct heat onto the powder as well as the cardstock. Now, I know this is kind of loud, but I also know you can kind of hear me. I like to start in one area. I find that if you go all over the place, you can easily miss a spot, and you don't want to miss a spot. Do you see what's happening? Isn't that pretty? It's like magic. Heat embossing is notorious with holiday cards because of the glam. I just love the way it looks. So I'm allowing that heat tool as it's getting hotter and hotter to conduct the heat on the paper. I don't want to miss a spot. Because if you miss a spot, guess what's going to happen? The powder will not set and it will wipe off with your fingers. And the sad reality is there's no way to fix it without restamping it. Okay, ask me how I know. I've done it. There's absolutely nothing you can do that I haven't already done, trust me. So I'm working in small sections to make sure that I've got every area covered, making sure that all the powder turns to that foily finish. I do one more cursory blow over the top. We're going to turn that off. I'm going to set that off to the side. Now we've got this stunning heat embossed image. I am actually going to use my scissors next for this. I'm going to bring in my paper snips. Absolutely love these. They're nice and sharp. And I'm going to cut this out. This stamp set does not have a set of dies for these images. But you know what? It really doesn't need it because look at these are all straight lines. Really, really simple to use. Now I'm going to tell you a little cheat mechanism. A lot of people hate to fussy cut because they say they can't be even, it cannot be straight. Don't worry about that. I want you to use long slicing marks and I want you to leave some basic cardstock that you stamped on around the outside image. So I'm just going to come up and cut off the excess. Just look, it doesn't have to be perfect. Mine certainly isn't. And then just cut. And again, we're going to follow those lines and cut. And then we're going to do the same thing here. And then cut, and the same thing down here. These straight lines are super easy to cut around. Now, when we get to the bottom, you might be thinking, well, I don't see a line all the way across. So let me just tell you what I did. I came up and I followed the edges of the stamped embossed area. All right, so I know there's a little curvature here, but that's going to be fine because you're going to see what I do with this layout. All right, let's take those pieces out of the way. Now, if you're like me and you've heat embossed, no matter how hard you tried, there's a little bit of gritty powder all over the place. And I want to give you two resolutions for that. The first is I took a Swiffer cloth and I cut it in half. It works fantastic over your surface to pick up all those small particles. But if you had a really rough time and you have more powder than you can count, get one of these. This is a sticky lint roller. I keep one of these in the craft room studio here. It is fantastic. I can go over the table. It's going to pick up all that excess powder, which means I don't have to worry about it transferring to an ink pad or to my hands or my clothes. This is also great for glitter, so keep that in mind. This is a fantastic little tip for you. All right, let's go back now to the actual piece that we had created our little stripes on with the designer series paper. I decided I wanted to play up some of that gold foil, so I'm going to bring in a layer of gold foil paper. And I know that's going to be blinding, so I'm setting it off to the side for just a moment. And I'm going to flip this upside down, and I'm going to add some adhesive to the back side. Now, this one layout is going to make a bunch of different cards, and I've got other samples to share with you. Please keep in mind that that free project sheet is going to be available for you, linked down in the video description below, because you're going to want those cutting dimensions and pictures and supplies. I'm looking around the perimeter to try to get an even border, and I'm going to press. I'm going to go back from the back side. Never fails. I have ink, sticky fingers, and it gets all over the front of my card. Now let's work on the card base, and then we're going to talk about the focal point. One of the things I want to share with you on the other cards is that the focal point is different for every single one of these, and that's really important for you to keep in mind for this layout. 4 1/4 by 11. I scored in half before you joined me at 5.5 inches. I'm coming over it with my bone folder. I'm a big fan of my bone folder. This now is going to go here. So we are playing up that black a little bit, but don't worry. Wait till you see how that embossed image is going to work to our favor. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some of my adhesive to those 4 corners. And then we are going to add this to the card base. I can't do anything straight. So I'm turning it horizontally to make it easier for me visually, because again, there is a small margin all the way around. And this allows me to get a good cursory look so I can see that it's even the best that I can. And I can see here I'm a little bit off, so I can switch that down a little bit. And then we're going to press that in place. Rub from the back once again. Now, do you remember this? All right, let's talk about this. Instinctively, everybody wants to put it down here, but I decided to offset this. So let's go ahead and add some dimensionals to the back side. I love these with Stampin' Up. The shape is fantastic because you've got jagged and straight sides as well. Don't be afraid to use more than what you think you need, and I'm going to tell you why. I am a big advocate of making sure that my cards come out balanced when they go through the mail meter at the post office. This is my Take Your Pick tool. It comes with several attachments. This is the piercing tool attachment. That's going to remove those backings for me quick and easy so my arthritic fingers don't have to peel those off. But by balancing out the dimensionals, you're going to be assured that your image is not going to come out lopsided. So this is going to make sure, especially because we've heat embossed it, that it's going to be straight. I am going to move this about here. So I'm looking to absorb some of that white area at the top. That's going to make sure that this holds out beautifully. Now, a couple things before we finish this, because it's easy. I took a greeting from that exact same stamp set. It's right here, Silent Night, Holy Night. I put it on black cardstock. So we're bringing continuity to this card. Now, I wanted to use it across the bottom, not because I didn't like this, but because I thought the angles would look really good together. So let's flip this over. And I'm looking for the top of my greeting, which is here. And I'm going to use those little tabs once again, just like we did with the Designer Series paper. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to anchor it here to the bottom of that image. And then we are going to tack it in place. I'm looking here and here to try to make them even. And then we're going to tack that down. I know that that tape is really, really strong. So I am not worried about this area. But if you are, I want to give you an important tip. Mini dimensionals can be your absolute best friend. And just like the full-size ones, they have that great shape to them. You can take off the paper backing in advance and then use your tool to pick it up. And this is what I call card surgery. Looking to make sure, oops, I shouldn't have lifted that too high, that I don't have a pointy end showing. I can tuck it up underneath and I can brace this. Quite honestly, once I had this in place and I pushed on it really good and hard, I didn't have any problems. But let's take this one step further, because the one thing I absolutely love is embellishments. So I'm bringing in the festive pearls. Now, if you have overlooked these in the mini catalog, let's give them a little shout out. The red, the light kind of seafoam green, the silver, and the gold are absolutely beautiful. They have glue dots already on the back, which make them easy to use. I'm going to place one there, and then I'm going to gravitate a positioning for my eye. I want to pull from the bottom up. So I'm going to put another one there and work on a triangle formation. Super duper simple. But here's the power of a fantastic card layout. Let me show you what else I've done. So this next one now is a slightly different Christmas card, and it uses the stamp set called Spruced Up. Now, this is where that beautiful snowflake vellum comes into play. But do you notice the Designer Series paper here? You might notice some silver foil between the layers of the paper. So here, the base cardstock color, this layer, is what's showing through. But here, I played up the silver. So what I'm doing here is I've actually heat embossed this in the silver, and I used some silver foil paper in between there. So this was all attached. Those cutting dimensions are going to be in your project sheet. Now, you might not think pink for Christmas, but guess what? Christmas isn't just red and green anymore, so experiment and have some fun. Now, I want to show you this bundle. You're going to want the dies because they are a real champ for this card. Not only does this die cut out the silhouette, it also cuts out a frame, which is what I've used here. Now, I know that's probably going to be really difficult to see, but in the photographs of your project sheet, you're going to be able to see that really well. Again, just added some twine to bring in some rhinestones with the silver. Just really, really pretty. You're going to see more of spruced up from me in the future, but here are 2 Christmas cards for you. Same exact layout. There's also a card sketch in your project sheet too. Now this next one has a fall theme, because if you're like me, you're probably making fall cards, or perhaps you're going to be making cards for Thanksgiving. And this one uses the bundle called Fond of Autumn. Now there's a great thing about this bundle that you might not know. Do you see this very, very large image? Well, guess what? When you die cut it, it die cuts it into segments. So you get different pieces. So this die cuts, and these die cut, which means you can use smaller pieces on your card. I am really having a lot of fun with this because of the versatility of the die for this large image. And of course, look at those beautiful fonts. So that's what I've done here. I just added some twine, used that beautiful leaf fall 3D embossing folder, which is cascading. You're going to notice the bottom here is blank because the embossing folder cascades. It's gorgeous. Just brought in some designer series papers for some fun colors and brought them in here to the image. Now this last one is specifically a bonus for tonight's live stream. Make sure you hang with me. We're going to do those winners for tonight. And this is the last one. It's a floral card. It could be a birthday card, a sympathy, a get well, but I made mine a thank you. And let's talk about this one. This comes from a bundle called Blessings of Home. A large, beautifully sketched flower. There's another image here and some beautiful text and dies. You gotta love those. So I did use some of these dies as well, which are adding a little bit of a 3D effect here. So do you see the designer series paper pieces are identical? Here, no space, little space, foil between, but this one has designer series paper layered between the strips. So there's really no right or wrong way that you can create the card. Gorgeous. This one uses the Stampin' Blends alcohol-based markers. Really a simple card to create. Now, I would love to know which one is your favorite. If you would, leave me a comment below because your feedback is always very important to me. Now, I got a couple things I want to tell you about, and then we're going to announce the winners of the 2 mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machines. First and foremost, if you have enjoyed tonight's live stream, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button, which is a like here on YouTube. It is an immense help for me here on my YouTube channel. Second of all, head over to lisastampstudio.com, scroll all the way to the bottom, and you're going to see the word subscribe. If you click that, you're going to receive my free weekly e-newsletter, which includes a tutorial project not shared on my other platforms. And I would love to include you. It's no frills. In addition to that, while you're there, check out my online class tab, which is under shop, and the PDF tutorial library. Tons of tutorials there for you to enjoy, to download immediately. Now, mark your calendar, and you might want to subscribe to my channel if you haven't, because if you click the bell icon and the word all, YouTube is going to send you reminders for this, because next Monday is a special Monday. It's the last Monday of the month here in the studio, and Gina will be here with me live. We want to make sure that you are here for us. We will be live at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. We have an amazing fun fold card for you, and we have 6 samples to share. All right, here comes the fun part. I want to announce the winners of the 2 mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machines. If you would, as a reminder, you have until Sunday, which is September 25th, 2022, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, to contact me. I will need your shipping address if you are one of these 2 random winners. I am going to pin the information so you can remember it all down in the comments below and here on the community tab, which is here on my YouTube channel, so that you don't have to try to remember all of this. I get that. Okay, are we ready? All right, here we go. Big congratulations to Toby and to Vera. We are so excited for you. You have each won the brand new mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. I will make sure to get those shipped to you as soon as I hear from you so that I know where to send them. I am going to reach for my mouse because if you are here with me and would like to take part in the Q&A. I'm going to stay and do that for you. If you're here watching the replay and you choose not to stay to listen to the Q&A answers, I look forward to having you join Gina and I next Monday. I look forward to seeing you then. All right, I'm reaching for my mouse. Bear with me. My voice is still a little raspy, so I'm just going to ask for a little bit of forgiveness here. And I'm still recovering from COVID. It's a long haul, but I feel pretty good. It's just, a little congestion lingering on. Okay, I'm going to wait for you to be able to provide your questions down in the video comments below. I know that there's a delay between when I speak and when you type and when I see it. So I'll just give you guys a couple seconds here. So a huge shout out again to Toby and to Vera. They're our winners, and I hope that they're going to enjoy their machines. I'm celebrating my 24 years as a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator next week, and I wanted just to do something for my YouTube viewers and say thank you. Thank you for supporting me and watching, and for your wonderful comments and allowing me to do what I absolutely love. Okay, I'm looking for your questions. And okay, I see one up here by Joanne. Joanne's question is, what is the difference between the embossing powder and the heat and stick powder? That is an excellent question, Joanne. Embossing powder is going to turn to a finish, so a silver, a gold, a black, etc. Heat and stick powder is actually, when you heat set it, going to become sticky. So for instance, if you had a large circle and you wanted it to be full of glitter, you would actually use the heat stick powder, heat it up, and it's going to get really sticky. And then you can pour glitter over the top, and the excess glitter will fall off where there isn't heat and stick powder. I know, it's great for large areas, especially if you don't want to put glue all over a big circle or a large ornament. That is an excellent question. I'm so glad that you asked it. Thank you. All right, I am just scrolling for a few more questions. Okay. I am looking. Judy has a question. What would cause embossing powder to take longer to melt than what I think it should? I have Stampin' Up! Powder and a Stampin' Up! Heat tool. Okay, Judy, this is an excellent question. Did you know that heat embossing powder can go bad? If that embossing powder has been around for a really long time, yeah, it might not be any good. So let me give you a tip. When you get the little embossing jar with the powder inside, give it a good shake, disperse it, and break up any clumps. Depending on what state you live in, the dryness or the humidity or the dampness can have an interaction to that powder. So shake it to loose up the particles. Make sure you're using Versamark ink to stamp your image, and make sure that your ink pad is not dry. Because if the ink isn't moist, then the powder will not stick appropriately, which means there's nothing to turn when you go to use the heat tool. I hope that that helps. That's really a good question. It's one that we actually get quite a bit of. All right, let's see. Arlene has a question. Is there a large amount of people registered for the Saturday online stamping retreat? The answer is yes, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. We cannot wait to spend the day with you. So as a loving reminder, go to onlinestampingretreat.com, click on retreats. Fall retreat is Saturday. Would love to have you with me, Gina, Kylie, and Bruno. We have so much fun in store for you. That's an excellent question too, Arlene. Let's take two more. Okay, let's see. Okay, I am looking. They're scrolling so quickly, so bear with me. I'm looking for a couple other questions. Oh, lots of congratulations. Thank you. Deb has a question. Deb's question is, what do you use to clean waterproof ink from a rubber stamp? So I'm assuming when you say waterproof ink, you're meaning StazOn solvent-based ink. So in that case, you're going to want to use a StazOn cleaner. It is sold in the Stampin' Up! Catalog, can be found in my online store. So solvent-based ink can leave a residue and some color onto your stamp, and you're going to want to make sure that you do that. Make sure that the stamp is damp before you put the StazOn cleaner on, and then clean it like you normally would, and that will remove all that residue for you. The great thing too is it's going to be sure that if you use that stamp in another color, none of that StazOn pigmentation will transfer. Very, very important. StazOn ink should never be used on photopolymer stamps. There's a chemical interaction that should only be used on red rubber. All right, I can take one more question tonight. I'm scrolling one more time. Oh, I love reading your favorite cards. Thank you. All right, Joanne's going to have the last question tonight, and she says, when you stamp an image in Versamark, how long do you have before it dries? In other words, can you stamp all your cards first, then emboss? Okay, another great question, Joanne. You're going to need to powder immediately. Now, when I say immediately, within several seconds. Versamark ink is tacky, but depending on the atmosphere that you're living in, perhaps it's very dry where you're at, it's going to dry very quickly. I keep the ceiling fan on in here because I live in Florida, which obviously is going to dry the ink even quicker. What you can do, however, is stamp powder. Go on to the next one, stamp powder. Once they have been powdered, they will stay good for about a minute, and then you can heat set several at a time. I like to do maybe 2 or 3 at a time without getting too far ahead of myself, because there's nothing worse than having to do the job all over again, right? So I hope that that helps you. These were great questions tonight. Thank you everyone for being here. Gina and I look forward to having you join us on Monday live. Oh, but we'd really love to have you with us Saturday for the online stamping retreat. Head over to our website for a fantastic day of live demonstrations and a very vast PDF tutorial of fun. Until then, stay well. Bye-bye.